That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, let's get this going. Let's talk about our running back rankings for week 6. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to be our rankings list for the rest of the season. However, this is just going to be our rankings list for this week, considering opportunity, considering matchups, obviously considering who these running backs are and the offense that they're playing in. But of course, before we get into it, you know exactly what we have to do here. We have to go through and give out some Fantasy Flock Network hats. Let me grab this really quick. And here is the Fantasy Flock Network hat. Of course, if you want to get entered, just go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Our first winner coming out from Ben, who says, what are your thoughts on Stephon Diggs rest of season? Yada, yada, yada. We'll reply in the comment section. You win a hat. We don't need to give you that answer right now. Then our next one coming out from John Izzy, somehow only a game back with CMC being out. Thanks for the advice. No congrats. Now that you're getting CMC back in, I'd imagine you have a dominant team. And one other way, if you want to enter in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat, is doing the number one thing that you can do to support this channel, which is go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, you can actually get access to in-season drafts going on right now. They also have a ton of player props that we've been discussing at length in the live streams. We've been profitable every single week with those player props. When you go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, you get a max deposit bonus when you deposit $10. You get additional entries daily to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. And most importantly, there's no better way to support this channel. And let's go into these running back tiers and rankings, starting it off at tier 1, ranking 1. I know we're going to have some disagreement. 99% of people want this to be Derrick Henry. We'll get to him in a little bit, but we have to come out. We have to put Austin Ekeler here. Now, with Austin Ekeler, I understand. I mean, Derrick Henry's been fantastic, but Ekeler has been just as impressive. Keep in mind, these are going to be rankings for PPR formats in particular, because I'd imagine that 90% of people watching this video are going to be playing in a PPR format. And if you're looking at Ekeler, the offense that he's playing in has just been arguably, I don't want to say the best offense in the NFL this season, but a top 5 offense in general. I mean, clearly the offensive line improvements have just completely changed the entire game flow with what you have with the Los Angeles Chargers here. Ekeler at the same time has had a considerable amount of targets out of his backfield, and he has that goal line role. A lot of people were iffy on if Austin Ekeler was worth a first-round selection just because they were a little concerned that he wasn't going to get every touch at the goal line. Well, no, that hasn't been the case. Austin Ekeler, so far this season. Now, this is going to regress heavily. There's no way that this rate remains anything close to this. He's had 7 touchdowns through 5 games so far. That's going to dip down. I promise you that's not going to continue to happen. But something that you should expect to still be near the top of the NFL is the fact that over the past 4 weeks, he has averaged almost 6 receptions a game. That is massive. And going up against the Baltimore Ravens here, I'm not too worried about this Baltimore Ravens defense. I mean, you've seen Lamar Jackson, just crush his career numbers in passing yards overall. And a big reason in that is this Ravens defense isn't the same defensive unit that we have seen over the past few seasons. So I think with some question marks to other matchups that we have this week, we're going to have Ekeler at 1. It's close. He's going to be in the same tier with some other guys here, but let's put Ekeler at 1. Now our next running back at 2 will be Christian McCaffrey going up against Minnesota. Now, of course, with McCaffrey here, you're going to have to go through and you're going to have to continue to monitor this situation going into Sunday. And I will say, I'm recording this on October 13th this morning. We really have no reports to look at with the health of Christian McCaffrey here. I am going to be operating under the assumption, based on what we had last week, that Christian McCaffrey will be good to go. He will be ruled as an active player by the time we get to Friday or Saturday for Minnesota. Now, with this being said, if Christian McCaffrey is a game time decision, even if he's active, you're going to have to be lowering your expectations, because we can potentially be seeing a very similar situation to what we had Joe Mixon this past week, where if he takes it all the way down to the game time decision and we don't necessarily know if he's 100%, then he's active, you're not going to be expecting the usual Christian McCaffrey workload. You're not expecting the 90% snaps played. But if he's ruled good to go on Friday, ruled good to go on Saturday, then hell yeah, we're going to have Christian McCaffrey in this top tier, expecting him to see 80% of the backfield touches. And obviously his role in the receiving game is fantastic. Not worried about the Minnesota matchup. Regardless, if he's active, you're starting him. I think that just where you're ranking him among these other running backs is going to be a little bit dictated on when he gets clear to play this week. Now, our next running back, the last running back in tier 1. I know that a lot of people are going to hate us for having him this low, but Derrick Henry. And yes, Derrick Henry has been fantastic this season. Over the past 4 weeks, it's been laughable, the production you have seen. I mean, you had 48 points, 19 points, 25 points, 31 points. I mean, it's been ridiculous for Derrick Henry. I will say over the past 4 weeks, he has had 7 rushing touchdowns, essentially averaging almost 2 rushing touchdowns a game. And the problem is, where I think with Austin Ekeler, given the role that he has in the receiving game, even if the touchdowns aren't there, he's going to have a very high floor. With Derrick Henry in particular, I think this is a running back that's going to be a little more dictated by his matchups. And hence, I'm saying a little more. He's not matchup dependent. You're starting Derrick Henry no matter what. But against the Buffalo Bills, this isn't going to be like what you've had, like the Tennessee Titans playing the Jags last week, then playing the Jets the week before that. It's not like you're just going to have Tennessee leading the majority of this game and they're able to give Derrick Henry 30 rushing attempts a game. This will be an offense that is most likely trailing the majority of the game to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who look like they potentially have the best team in the NFL right now from what you get on the defensive side of the ball and offensively. So I think Derrick Henry's still in our top 3. It's still in tier 1, but I'm not going to have him at my running back 1 spot as we have the past 2 weeks. Now, our next running back going down to tier 2 here will be Jonathan Taylor going up against the Houston Texans. This is just a dream matchup for Jonathan Taylor, and obviously coming off a very impressive performance on Monday night. I will tell a lot of people you should not just be 100% buying into Jonathan Taylor based on this past week's performance. He did have that extremely large rushing touchdown. I mean, he did have 3 receptions, 116 receiving yards, a rushing touchdown to go along with it, and a receiving touchdown to go on top of it. I mean, this was someone that was just an overall bell cow dynamic running back this past week. I'm still a little bit concerned about the offense. I'm still a little bit concerned about Quentin Nelson going down, what that means for this offensive line. But against the Houston Texans, this is going to be one of the very few games that you actually have the Indianapolis Colts favored by more than a touchdown. Currently, I believe the spread on this game is about 10.5 points. So you would imagine that the Indianapolis Colts are going to be running the ball consistently in the second half. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor, going to be a top 5 running back for us. Not in tier 1 with those other players, but will be down in tier 2. Now, our next running back, very dependent on the reports that are going to be coming out over the next few days. So keep in mind, this is something we're going to continue to track. We'll live stream every single night this week, as we always do, so I can give you updates with this player. But Dalvin Cook is going to be our running back 5 here. With Dalvin Cook, I mean, he was a game time decision this past week where, yes, he was inactive. You saw Alexander Mattison get that bell count level usage. I'm going to be ranking Dalvin here in just the thought process that he is good to go. Now, we're going to have to continue to monitor the reports. We're going to have to continue to try to project what the exact split is going to be between Mattison and Dalvin Cook with how Dalvin Cook looks at practice. I mean, if he's getting in full practices by the time we get to Friday, then hell yeah, fire up Dalvin Cook. He will be that bell cow running back. However, if this is a situation where he's that game time decision, we get down to the wire and he is active, then, I mean, if he's that game time decision, didn't really practice this week, I would imagine he splits the backfield for Alexander Mattison. So yeah, probably going to end up lower than this, but I think we want to at least rank him where we would have him if he was good to go. That way we can make our adjustments and move him down when that's not going to be the case, because right now we're working with very limited information. Now, our next running back will be coming in at 6, Najee Harris going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, with Harris here, don't love the matchup against Seattle. I'm not too worried about the defense that you have with the Seattle Seahawks. Rather, I just think that this overall game is going to be extremely low scoring. I mean, Geno Smith, Ben Roethlisberger, Pittsburgh obviously having a great defense. Now, with Najee Harris, he's just one of the safest running backs in football. As you're seeing, no Juju Smith-Schuster in this offense will keep him having one of the highest target shares among any running back in the NFL this season. To go along with this, you'd imagine that the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against Geno Smith, they are able to lead this game, and you do just get a guaranteed 20-plus touch workload for Najee Harris. Yeah, I mean, with Pittsburgh, obviously we don't love this offensive line, but I mean, with Harris, this has been someone I've been telling a lot of people to go trade for, telling a lot of people to go try to get them on their roster, because the best example of what you could give for Najee Harris and who he's kind of operating as in terms of a comparison from 2020, he is literally just 2020 James Robinson. He's a running back, one of the worst offenses in football that's getting every single touch out of the backfield. So just with the raw amount of touches alone, I'm going to make him an elite fantasy option. Now, at running back 7, we will have Aaron Jones as the last running back in this tier. And I just owe everybody an apology. Coming into the season, looking at Vegas lines, looking at what Vegas was telling us with team totals and spreads with the Chicago Bears, we were expecting that this Chicago Bears team was going to have, I don't want to say a bad defense this season, but definitely a defense that was significantly worse than the elite unit that we have seen over the past few seasons. And I've always admit that, I'm not going to be pretending to be some expert level analysis on defensive units, but still, we can look at Vegas. We can kind of look at what they're telling us, knowing that they're going to be right way more than I am. And yeah, it looks like they were kind of wrong. The Chicago Bears look like they have a great defense here. The spread with this game is only like 4 points, which is very surprising between a great Green Bay Packers team and then also a team that's being led by Justin Fields right now. So Aaron Jones, don't love the matchup here. I think we are going to have him at running back 7 in this last tier, however, just because the offense he's playing in, as well as the high value touches he will see. Now, let's drop it down one tier. Let's go over to our running back 8, which will be James Robinson against the Miami Dolphins. Now, big issue is with James Robinson. This is a running back that's playing on one of, if not the worst offenses in football. The Jacksonville Jaguars have lost like 20 games in a row, but with Robinson, you have now seen him come out and command this backfield. Even in a game where Carlos Hyde's been healthy, he has been able to see 80% of the touches in this backfield, which is fantastic, projecting him going forward, because we know in 2020, this was also the worst offense in football. However, James Robinson was able to be highly productive just based on the raw amount of touches, very similar to what we were talking about Najee Harris. Looks like we're trending right back in that direction. Looks like Urban Meyer is lowering the usage that he has for Carlos Hyde. Now, running back 9 here, someone that I want to be extremely aggressive on. If you've been coming out in a live stream, this is a running back that I have told everybody to trade for. It's annoying. If you come out to one of our live streams this week, I promise you, you're going to be rolling your eyes because people will send in their roster, go, what should I do? And I go, trade X, Y, and Z, go get Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson here, I think that we have seen him so far this season. He has just been an absurd level running back with the volume that he has had in Los Angeles. Something that I've been surprised by, if we're going to be honest, especially his usage in the receiving game. Now, I know if you're looking at this past week with Darrell Henderson in particular, you're going to be going, Mason, he didn't get every single touch out of this backfield. Sony Michel got a considerable amount of touches here, which is definitely true. Like, if we're going to be pulling up Sony Michel did have 11.5 points where he had 11 carries. He had 37 rushing yards. He had a rushing touchdown as well. And then if you're going back to week 3, Sony Michel, god dang, 20 carries. If we're going to week 2, 10 carries. Oh my gosh, Sony Michel getting a ton of touches here. Well, in reality, you look at Darrell Henderson, who got hurt in week 2. That's why Sony Michel had 10 touches in that game. In week 3, Darrell Henderson missed that week. That's why Sony Michel had 20 touches in those games. And in week 5, Darrell Henderson had to leave for a small duration with another injury. I know it's annoying, but so far he's had 2 injuries this season. Not necessarily wanting to deem that he's an injury-prone player just because of that. So you're looking at 3 weeks that Darrell Henderson, has been either in and out of the lineup or missed entirely. And in those weeks, you have had over 40 touches for Sony Michel. But the 2 weeks where Darrell Henderson has been 100% healthy, the amount of touches for Sony Michel is laughable. He has had 4 touches in those 2 weeks where Darrell Henderson is 100% good to go. You're seeing Henderson get 90% of the snaps and one of the best offenses in football. It's a game against the New York Giants where you should have Henderson leading the majority of the time. So yeah, I think we are going to have Henderson at 9. I know it's a very aggressive mark, but I'm in love with what we have from Darrell Henderson. Now, at running back 10, I know he's going to be a lot lower on our list than a lot of others, but it is what it is. Ezekiel Elliott. And yes, with Elliott here, this has been a fantastic running back so far this season, playing in one of the best offenses in football. You've consistently seen the Dallas Cowboys put up 40-plus points. I'm a little hesitant to say that we're just going to get the usual 20-plus points from Ezekiel Elliott this week, however, just given the matchup against the New England Patriots. We've seen the Patriots have strong defensive performances before. I also think that you're going to see New England and Bill Belichick probably try to slow down this game and limit the number of possessions that you're getting for Dallas. At the same time, Ezekiel Elliott splitting this backfield with Tony Pollard. So I know the past couple of weeks, 21 carries, 20 carries, 17 carries, 16 carries. Every single week, that workload goes a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. Keep in mind, we called Ezekiel Elliott the number 1 buy low player after he failed on Thursday night against the toughest run defense in football in Tampa. I know that doesn't look like an impressive call now because everybody goes, yeah, of course, Mason, that's obvious. Oh, it wasn't obvious to everyone when they were panicking after week 1. But still, Tony Pollard has been getting enough workload in this team that I think if it's going to be a bad matchup, Ezekiel Elliott will be a low-end running back 1 for me. I mean, Darrell Henderson, projecting him to be in a better matchup in probably a higher scoring offense, and he's going to see every touch out of his backfield. So yeah, that's why we're going to have Zeke behind Henderson, even if they're in the same tier. Now, our last running back in this tier will be DAndre Swift, who will be playing in most likely, I don't want to say a competitive game against the Cincinnati Bengals, but at least a one-score game. I mean, the spread on this game right now is only about 3.5 points. And DAndre Swift, another very strong performance. It's so funny. I mean, obviously, pretty much everybody on YouTube was coming out calling DAndre Swift one of the most overdrafted players in fantasy this offseason. We are saying quite the opposite. We are saying that this is Alvin Kamara. This is Aaron Jones on a bad offense. I mean, he is someone that, yes, isn't going to get every touch out of this backfield, but he will get the valuable ones. You see this so far this season. I mean, he had 11 carries this past week, 8 carries the week before that, 14 the week before that, 8 carries. And it simply doesn't matter because when you're seeing the usage that he has in his receiving game, I mean, he just has such a high floor and ceiling combination. 29 receptions so far through 5 weeks, essentially almost averaging 6 receptions a game. He's also had 250 receiving yards through 5 weeks. So just receiving the ball. I mean, this is someone that is averaging 6 points off receptions. He's averaging 5 points off of his receiving yardage. That's 110 rushing yards equivalent. That is unbelievable here. So yeah, I mean, he only has 190 rushing yards this season so far. But still, the usage of the receiving game is fantastic. We like the matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. So we will have DAndre Swift as our last running back in this tier. And we got to speed this up. Dear God, this is taking a while. Let's go to our running back 12, one tier down. Let's go to Nick Chubb. Now, Nick Chubb, trust me, I know I'm the world's #1 Nick Chubb hater for the exact opposite of the reason why DAndre Swift is so valuable. Nick Chubb is the exact opposite. You're looking at Nick Chubb so far this year. He has had 5 targets out of his backfield. 5 targets. This is translated into a running back that, I mean, has 161 rushing yards last week, 100 rushing yards the week before that. Yet, at the same time, he's just a high-end running back too in fantasy based on the fact that if he is not getting the targets out of this backfield, I mean, Kareem Hunt is soaking up just so many valuable touches here. So it doesn't matter that he's seeing 161 rushing yards this past week if Kareem Hunt's going to outscore him, just based on the idea that Kareem Hunt, on the other hand, is the guy getting the receptions out of the backfield and the usage of the goal line. Now, with all that being said, we are going to have Nick Chubb ranked ahead of Hunt just because Chubb is the better running back. Chubb is going to be seeing more touches overall. I mean, but keep in mind, why we were hating Nick Chubb this offseason, he was going in the 1st. Kareem Hunt was going in the 6th. So don't be screaming at me now for having Nick Chubb ranked 1 spot ahead of Kareem Hunt. Because trust me, I have Nick Chubb nowhere. We have Kareem Hunt everywhere. And yeah, we are going to be ranking Kareem Hunt at running back 13 in the same tier. Same matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe make the argument that the Cardinals is a better matchup for Kareem Hunt, knowing that the Browns will have to throw the ball. I think they are neck and neck, though. And our running back 14, last guy in this tier, will be Antonio Gibson against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, with Antonio Gibson here, this is a running back going up against the Chiefs that, honestly, pretty bad matchup. I know that with the Chiefs, they have a bad defense overall, but we know that they're going to be a team putting up a considerable amount of points. Antonio Gibson, we have seen his offense before. If they get behind multiple touchdowns, they will completely abandon the run. They'll completely abandon Antonio Gibson, put in J.D. McKissick. If you're playing Antonio Gibson, you're more so just hoping that he's going to get the points in the first half before this game gets out of hand. Now, let's drop this a tier down, and you're going to see that the running back position here gets pretty ugly quickly this week. Because at running back 15, we're going to have Joe Mixon going up against the Detroit Lions. Now with Mixon here, this is a very conservative ranking based on the low ankle sprain that he does have. Obviously, if you're seeing him split the backfield yet again with Samaje Perine, this ranking is too high. If you're seeing him come out and get his usual workload against a very bad defense, this ranking is too low. So with Joe Mixon, I hate to give this little asterisk next to it, but we are going to have to make sure that we are going to be monitoring the reports going into Sunday. That way we can be making the adjustments. Now, running back 16 actually plays on Thursday night, so y'all are going to be able to watch this on Friday and Saturday and laugh at whatever analysis I give you right now. But with Leonard Fournette going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, right now with Leonard Fournette, I mean, he has completely phased out Ronald Jones out of this offense. Giovanni Bernard still getting some targets out of the backfield. I mean, he did see, I believe, like 12 routes run, if memory serves correct. But here with Leonard Fournette, this is still a running back that is operating as a pseudo bell cow, pseudo 3-down running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the most productive offenses in football. Maybe you make an argument to have Leonard Fournette ranked higher than this, but 16, I don't love the matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is a fair mark, especially if they just, maybe get a little more usage to Ronald Jones, which is something they haven't done so far, but it's so hard to know exactly what Tampa's going to do at running back. Now, running back 17 will be Zach Moss, the last guy in this tier. Love what we have with Zach Moss, someone that's coming out and getting more targets, more routes run out of his backfield. And obviously, this is one of the most productive offenses, if not the most productive offense in the entire NFL. If you're looking at a points per game standpoint to see where we have Zach Moss so far this season, he's actually the running back 17. Now, yes, I mean, he has just not had the usual 20 plus touches that you're looking for with the running back. But a big thing is when he has a red zone role in one of the most productive offenses in football, he has more touchdown upside than a lot of other players on this list. And obviously, good matchup against the Tennessee Titans. We will have Zach Moss at running back 17. Now let's drop it down one more tier and let's go over to Josh Jacobs at running back 18. Obviously, John Gruden resigning as the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders here. I had a lot of questions in the live stream going, oh, Mason, what can we expect from Josh Jacobs, the Kenyon Drake usage this week with no John Gruden in Las Vegas? What can we expect from Darren Waller? My answers to those questions, what we can expect for this offense when they do not have John Gruden here, trust me, I wish I could give you a solid answer, but sadly, I'm not smart enough. If I was smart enough, I wouldn't be making YouTube videos right now. I will tell you that. If anybody tries to tell you they know exactly what's going to happen in Las Vegas, they're lying to you. All I know is it's a tough matchup against the Denver Broncos. I know Josh Jacobs has had like 10 receptions over the past 2 weeks, which you definitely love to see. Yeah, we're going to have him at 18. I think it's really hard to know what to expect from this team this week, however. Now, our next running back at running back 19 will be Chase Edmonds going up against the Cleveland Browns. I know James Conner, yet another touchdown this past week. James Conner has 5 rushing touchdowns over the past 3 weeks. And this past week, I told y'all not to start him anywhere. Honestly, I kind of like that call because if he didn't score that touchdown, he would have scored 4.5 points. Now, with Chase Edmonds, however, I mean, this is a running back that while, yes, he doesn't have the red zone role, he still is a higher floor option, in my opinion, and that you're just seeing the usage in the receiving game. So far, he's had 26 targets out of this backfield. He's also a more efficient running back based on his athleticism on a per touch basis. Yeah, we are going to have Chase Edmonds, especially in the game against the Cleveland Browns, where we would imagine this is a very competitive. Now, our next running back will be Damian Harris going up against the Dallas Cowboys at running back 20. Now, with Damian Harris, I know if you're looking at the raw number of touches from a week ago, not that encouraging. I mean, if you're looking at Damian Harris as a running back that only had, keep in mind, it was a great matchup against the Houston Texans. He only had 14 carries out of this backfield. I mean, after 2 extremely disappointing weeks in weeks 3 and 4. And I really want to emphasize the fact that Damian Harris, another one of these running backs I hated in drafts. Seemed like everybody on YouTube had Damian Harris as their favorite buy low running back, even though he was everybody's favorite buy low sleeper running back. So is he really that much of a sleeper? We, however, were coming out saying how much we hated him just because he wasn't going to get any usage in the receiving game. So far, he's had 8 targets through 5 games. But still, I mean, with James White going down for the rest of the season, you would expect possibly more snaps for Damian Harris. And at the same time, if you're looking at the workload this past week, it is very deceiving just because if he wanted to fumble at the goal line, he would have had an extra rushing touchdown to go along with this. I mean, he also had a chest injury that gave Ramondre Stevenson a considerable amount of touches here at the same time. That's not something that you should be expecting going forward, even though I was someone advocating to just draft Ramondre Stevenson in the last round of your draft to kind of see what happens and then go through and avoid Damian Harris at all costs. Stevenson had 11 carries, only 23 rushing yards this past week. The New England Patriots offensive line is extremely banged up at this moment, so you're going to have to go through and continue to monitor that situation. I think we are going to have Damian Harris ranked as a low-end running back 2, however. Now, our next running back at running back 21 will be Myles Gaskin, the last player in this tier. And with Myles Gaskin, great matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just a little worried because this is a running back that literally was a backup to Malcolm Brown just 2 weeks ago. I mean, I know that he had the majority of the snaps in a runaway game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just a week ago. And yes, he put up a ton of production. I believe he was the running back 2 on the week. I mean, if we're pulling up these stats, 10 receptions, 74 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 10 targets. I mean, the usage in the receiving game was fantastic. The game was out of hand, though. I mean, still, this is a running back that's had over 10 touches one time this year so far. And I apologize, not 10 touches, 10 carries. Looks like a very similar player to just Naheem Hines, if you're going to ask me. I think we are going to have him as a low-end running back too. Now, let's go down to our last tier on this list, and let's start it off at running back 22 with Darrell Williams. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Mason, are we going to prefer Devontae Booker or are we going to prefer Darrell Williams? I mean, it's so easy here. Darrell Williams is going to be playing in an offense that is 10 times more productive than the New York Giants. And at the same time, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a longer injury than Devontae Booker, so I 100% prefer Darrell Williams over Booker. And yeah, going up against Washington, going to be a spot where you expect the Kansas City Chiefs to score a decent amount of points. Maybe you get a ton of snaps for Jerick McKinnon. Not something I'm expecting, but it is in the range of outcomes. We will have Darrell Williams here at running back 22, and we see what the exact role is going to be in Kansas City. At running back 23, yes, he makes it this far down the list. We are going to have Miles Sanders. Now, with Miles Sanders here, this is a running back that, my God, we told you all to sell him 3 weeks ago, just based on the idea that he had a very, very tough schedule upcoming, where he played the Carolina Panthers last week. The week before that, he played the Kansas City Chiefs, which we knew that was going to be a runaway offense against Philadelphia, where Miles Sanders wasn't going to be able to be in the game consistently based on Kenneth Gainwell taking the third down usage. Now, against Carolina this past week, Sanders was encouraging, where he did have 5 receptions out of this backfield, only converted it to 6 receiving yards. Obviously, that's not great, but just knowing that he is out there running routes is a positive sign. But against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we've already discussed this at length every single week so far this season. The Buccaneers have one of the best offenses in the NFL. They're going to be able to put up points, which is going to make it where the opposing offense can't really run the ball because they're going to be trailing. And if they wanted to run the ball, they can't, because Tampa has one of the best run defenses in the entire NFL. Yeah, Miles Sanders, horrendous matchup. Avoid starting Miles Sanders at all costs. Would not be in our top 24 running backs if it wasn't for the fact that we just have a decent amount of buys this week, so we're having to make some pivots elsewhere. Now, our last running back in our top 24, I hate to put him here. I really do. But I think we are going to have Melvin Gordon. Now, Melvin Gordon is seeing more touches out of this backfield as of now with Javonte Williams. I still stand by the fact that I think Javonte, by the time we get to week 8, week 9, which is what we've always said, is the starting running back in this offense. Now, you have seen only 9 carries over the past 2 weeks, which of course isn't great, but he is going up against the Las Vegas Raiders this week in particular. I think you could see a small bounce back, especially if Jerry Jeudy plays for this Denver Broncos offense. And we don't know what to expect with the Raiders. Maybe they completely crumble with everything that's been going on in Las Vegas over the past week. We don't know how this team's going to react. So Melvin Gordon is an intriguing last-minute dart throw. Now, really quick, let me get to some honorable mentions because I know we're going to have some questions, but we are 28 minutes into this video. If you have not gone down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, let a comment enter to win a Fantasy Flog Network hat. Go use promo code FLOG, make a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy to support this channel more than you would ever believe. Fix your life. And yeah, our last 2 running backs I have to bring up, Devontae Booker, Damian Williams. Booker, we don't know who's going to be healthy in New York. I mean, obviously, Barkley's going to be out, but if Daniel Jones is out going up against the Los Angeles Rams, will be one of the toughest matchups and one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL. Going to be avoiding Booker like the plague. Damian Williams here, also Damian Williams. He literally had less snaps. He had less touches overall than Khalil Herbert this past week. Not considering playing him against the Green Bay Packers. I would prefer having him over Herbert, given his usage in the receiving game, as well as the fact that he's a better running back overall, but not playing either guy. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I'll be live streaming tonight, of course. So hope to see you then. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. And have a great day.